Lisa Martinez stood in the big meeting hall of the Galactic Council. The room was huge, with strange alien creatures sitting on floating platforms. She was the human ambassador, sent from Earth to talk with all the different alien species in the galaxy. The aliens were talking about humans. They did not think much of them. "These humans are weak," said Vexthari, a snake-like alien with glowing eyes. His voice was cold and mean. "They only want to talk about peace. They want to trade, not fight. What kind of species acts like this?" Other aliens in the room made sounds of agreement. A big crab-like creature clicked its claws together. "When we first met them, they offered us gifts and friendship. They did not try to take our worlds or demand our resources. This is not normal." Lisa kept her face calm, but inside she felt angry. These aliens had no idea what they were talking about. Behind her stood Captain Ryan Brooks, a human soldier in a clean uniform. He was there to look nice for the aliens. But Lisa knew he was much more than that. "Maybe this is why humans have stayed on their home planet for so long," said another alien, this one looking like a glowing jellyfish. "They do not have the fighting spirit needed to take over other worlds." The human delegation had been on this alien world for 3 months. In all that time, Lisa had watched the aliens make fun of humans. They thought humans were scared of everything because they always tried to solve problems with words instead of weapons. "I have looked at their war records," announced a tall alien with 4 arms. This was General Thokmar, a famous warrior. "They have small fights on their planet, but nothing serious. Their biggest battle had only a few 100,000 fighters." How cute! Lisa saw Ryan's jaw tighten. She knew what he was thinking. The aliens had been given fake records that showed only small conflicts. They had no idea about the real wars humans had fought. "The humans fear war," Vexthari continued. "They built their whole society around avoiding it. This makes them useful as helpers when other species fight, but they are not worthy of respect." The meeting went on for hours. Different alien species shared their thoughts about humans. They all said the same thing. Humans like to talk instead of fight. Humans got nervous when they saw big weapons. Humans always tried to find a middle ground when others argued. What the aliens did not understand was something important. Humans were not peaceful because they were weak. They were peaceful because they knew exactly how terrible war could be. They knew what humans became when they had to fight. Lisa had studied human history. She knew about the great wars on Earth. She knew about the millions who died. She knew about the weapons that could destroy whole cities. The aliens thought humans were afraid of war, but they were wrong. Humans were afraid of what they did during war. When the meeting ended, Vexthari came over to talk to Lisa. "Ambassador Martinez," he said in a voice that sounded like he was talking to a child, "I hope you are not angry about our discussion. We just find your species interesting because you love peace so much." Lisa smiled politely. "Of course not, Counselor. We understand your point of view." As they walked away from the meeting, Ryan whispered to Lisa, "Ma'am, the people back on Earth are getting restless. They want to know when we are going to show these aliens what humans can really do." Lisa whispered back, "Hopefully never, Captain. For everyone's sake." Neither of them saw the small listening device that had been hidden in the room. They did not know that someone was already planning to test whether humans were really as weak as they seemed in another part of the galaxy. A group of militant aliens called the Zephyrians were listening to recordings of the meeting. Their leader, Fleet, Commander Zarthul, smiled with his sharp teeth. "So the humans are weak," he said to his officers. "They fear war. They will not fight back if we attack them." "What are your orders, sir?" asked one of his captains. "Find a human colony," Zarthul said. "A small one with no defenses. We will test these humans. If they are as weak as the Council thinks, we can take their worlds easily. And if they fight back, Zarthol laughed. Look at their records. They have never fought a real war. What could they possibly do to us? Meanwhile, back on Earth, President Johnson was reading reports from the Galactic Council. His advisors sat around a big table, discussing the situation. The aliens think we are weak, said General Adams, the head of Earth's military. They have no idea what our real capabilities are. Good, said President Johnson. Let them think that. The longer they believe we are harmless, the longer we can keep the peace. But, sir, said another advisor, what if someone decides to test? You? What if they attack one of our colonies? President Johnson was quiet for a moment. He looked out the window at the peaceful city below. Then we will show them why humans stopped fighting each other. We will show them what we learned from all those wars. The room fell silent. Everyone knew what the president meant. Earth had hidden files that the aliens had never seen. Records of wars that had claimed millions of lives. Plans for weapons that could destroy fleets. Training programs that turned ordinary people into perfect soldiers. Sir, asked General Adams, what are our orders if someone attacks? President Johnson turned back to the table. His face was serious. If someone attacks our people, if they kill our children, then we stop pretending to be weak. We show them what humans are really capable of. And if the galaxy is not ready for that truth, then the galaxy will learn, said the president, the hard way. Far away, in the deep space between stars, human ships moved quietly through the darkness. They were not the simple exploration vessels the aliens had seen. These were warships, built with technology that had been developed over centuries of conflict. The crews of these ships were different too. They were not the peaceful diplomats the aliens had met. They were soldiers, trained in ways of fighting. That the galaxy had never seen that Captain Sam Wilson stood on the bridge of the UES Defender, watching the stars through the view screen. His ship was part of the secret fleet that protected human space. The aliens thought humans had no real military. But they were wrong. Captain, said his communications officer, we are receiving new orders from Earth Command. What do they say? We are to maintain our current patrol, but we are also to be ready for something called Protocol 7. Captain Wilson nodded. Protocol 7 was the code for total war. It meant that someone had pushed humans too far. It meant that the galaxy was about to learn why humans had really stopped fighting each other. Understood, he said. Pass the word to all ships. We may be going to war soon. As the message spread through the secret human fleet, soldiers prepared. For what might come, they checked their weapons, reviewed their training, and remembered the lessons of human history. The galaxy thought humans were weak. The galaxy thought humans were afraid of war. The galaxy was about to learn how wrong they were. But first, someone would have to make the mistake of attacking humans. Someone would have to kill human civilians. Someone would have to wake up the sleeping giant that Earth had become. In the cold darkness of space, the human ships waited. They had been waiting for 200 years, hoping they would never be needed. But they were ready, just in case. The galaxy was about to change forever. The aliens just did not know it yet. 3 weeks after the meeting at the Galactic Council, something terrible happened. The human colony at New Eden went silent. Lisa Martinez was in her room on the diplomatic ship when the emergency message came. A blue hologram appeared in front of her, showing Admiral Helen Carter. The Admiral's face looked angry and worried. Ambassador, the Admiral said, we have lost contact with New Eden Colony. 47,000 people live there, including 1,500 children. The last message we got said they were under attack by unknown ships. Lisa felt her heart sink. Are there any survivors? We do not know yet. Our sensors picked up multiple explosions that match orbital bombing. We are sending the UES Defender to check, but it will take 36 hours to get there. Before Lisa could respond, another message came in. This one was from BesT, the snake-like alien from the council. He appeared next to the Admiral's image, and Lisa could see he was trying not to smile. "Ambassador Martinez," he said in a fake concerned voice, "the council has received a message from the Zephyrian hegemony. They say they found human ships in the Kepler 442 system and had to defend themselves from human attacks." Lisa's blood turned cold. The Zephyrians were known throughout the galaxy as bullies who liked to attack weaker species. They had been missing from recent council meetings about humans. "I find that very hard to believe, Counselor," Lisa said, keeping her voice calm. "Our colony at New Eden was all civilians. They had almost no weapons." "Maybe so," BesT replied, "but the Zephyrians have shown us proof that humans were building a military base there. They have asked the council to let them set up a protective area around what they say is a human military installation." Admiral Carter's image flickered, but her voice came through clearly. "Ambassador, those are 47,000 innocent people they are talking about. The council," BesT announced, "has voted to allow the Zephyrians to keep their defensive position while we investigate these claims. Surely, if humans are as peaceful as they say, they will accept this reasonable precaution." Lisa looked at the Admiral. Both women understood what was happening. The Zephyrians had planned this attack perfectly. They struck first, claimed they were defending themselves, and counted on the council, thinking humans were too weak to fight back. "I need to talk with Earth Command," Lisa said carefully. "Of course," BesT replied, "but I trust the humans will respond with their usual restraint. After all, we would not want to make this unfortunate misunderstanding worse." When the connection ended, Lisa turned to Admiral Carter. "Helen, where is our deep space fleet?" "The 7th Fleet is doing training exercises in the Tau Ceti system. They could be at Kepler 442 in 18 hours if we give the order." Lisa closed her eyes. For 200 years, humans had carefully hidden their true abilities. They had let the galaxy think they were weak and peaceful. They had hidden their real military power and their knowledge of war. "Admiral," she said quietly, "send a message to President Johnson. Tell him the Zephyrians have just made the biggest mistake in galactic history." "Ma'am?" Lisa opened her eyes. Admiral Carter saw something there that made her stand up straighter. "Tell him it is time to show the galaxy why humans do not start wars. It is because we are very, very good at finishing them." Meanwhile, on the Zephyrian flagship Glory of the Hegemony, Fleet Commander Zarthul watched the destruction of the human colony with satisfaction. His screens showed the burning remains of what had once been a happy settlement. "The humans have not responded to our attack," reported his communications officer. "Their nearby ships have kept their distance and only sent distress signals." Zarthul laughed, just as we expected. The council was right. These creatures have no stomach for real fighting. Send a message to the hegemony. Tell them the human expansion into this sector has been stopped. Zarthul felt very proud of himself. He had destroyed a human colony, and the humans had done nothing. This proved that humans were as weak as everyone said. But Zarthul did not know something important. At that exact moment, 47 ships of the human 7th Fleet were coming out of hyperspace at the edge of the system. The crews of these ships were already changing into something the galaxy had never seen. The galaxy was about to discover why humans had really stopped fighting each other. On the bridge of the U.E.'s Retribution, Captain Jake Morrison received the orders from Earth Command. He read them twice to make sure he understood. "All hands, this is the captain," he announced over the ship's communication system. "We have received confirmation that the Zephyrians have attacked and destroyed the civilian colony at New Eden. 47,000 men, women, and children are dead." The bridge fell silent. Every officer understood what this meant. By order of Earth Command, we are now implementing Protocol 7. All previous rules of engagement are suspended. We are authorized to use any means necessary to eliminate the Zephyrian threat. Protocol 7 was something that had been planned for, but never used. It was the code for total war. It meant that humans would stop pretending to be weak and show the galaxy what they were really capable of. "Sir," asked his tactical officer, "what are our specific orders?" Captain Morrison looked out at the stars. Somewhere ahead was the Zephyrian fleet that had killed thousands of innocent people. "We are to eliminate their ability to make war, completely. And after that, we make sure this never happens again." Back on Earth, President Johnson stood in the Situation Room with his top advisors. The room was full of screens showing the location of human fleets throughout the galaxy. "The Zephyrians have made their choice," he said. "They attacked our people because they thought we were weak. They killed our children because they thought we would not fight back." "What are your orders, sir?" asked General Adams. President Johnson looked at the map of human space. Red dots showed where their secret fleets were positioned. For 200 years, these fleets had stayed hidden, protecting human colonies without the galaxy knowing they existed. "Send the message to all fleet commanders," he said. "The masquerade is over. Show them what humans learned from studying war." The message went out across space at light speed. Human ships that had been hiding in the dark spaces between stars began to move. Weapon systems that had been kept secret for centuries came online. Soldiers who had trained for a war they hoped would never come prepared for battle. On the Zephyrian flagship, Zarthul was celebrating with his officers when the alarms began to sound. "Sir," his sensor officer called out, "I am reading multiple contacts approaching from the outer system. They appear to be human vessels." Zarthul laughed. "How many?" 47 ships, sir. They are approaching from multiple directions." "Excellent. We outnumber them 3-1. This will be easy." But as the human ships got closer, Zarthul began to notice something strange. These ships were not like the civilian vessels the galaxy had seen. They were sleek, dark, and seemed to absorb sensor scans instead of reflecting them. "Sir," his tactical officer said, his voice shaking, "these ships are not in our database. We have never seen anything like them." "It does not matter," Zarthul said, though he was starting to feel worried. "All ships, prepare for battle. Show these humans what real warriors can do." The human fleet moved into position with perfect coordination. They did not make threats or demands. They simply took up positions around the Zephyrian fleet like hunters surrounding their prey. Then a message came from all 47 human ships at once. The voices were perfectly synchronized, creating a sound that sent chills through every Zephyrian who heard it. "This is Admiral Sarah Williams of the United Earth Defense Force. You have attacked and destroyed a civilian colony containing 47,000 men, women, and children. You will surrender immediately for transport to a war crimes tribunal, or you will be destroyed." Zarthul tried to sound confident. "You cannot be serious. We outnumber you 3-1. "Fleet Commander Zarthul," the voice continued, and he realized with growing horror that they somehow knew his name. "You have 30 seconds to surrender your vessels. You have attacked civilians. You have murdered children. There will be no further warnings." The countdown began. 30, 29, 28. "All ships attack," Zarthul screamed. "Show these humans what real power looks like." The Zephyrian fleet opened fire with everything they had. Plasma bolts, energy beams, and missiles filled the space around the human ships. It was enough firepower to destroy a planet. For a moment, nothing happened. The human ships seemed to absorb the attack without even shooting back. Then they moved. What happened next was unlike any space battle the galaxy had ever seen. The human ships did not fight like other species. They did not line up and exchange fire. Instead, they moved through the Zephyrian formation like water, their weapons targeting specific systems with surgical precision. Within minutes, half the Zephyrian fleet was floating dead in space, their engines and weapons disabled. The other half found themselves fighting an enemy that seemed to know their every move before they made it. How are they doing this? Zarthul demanded. His tactical officer could barely speak. Sir, they are not fighting like any military we have ever seen. They are fighting like they have studied war itself. The human ships continued their deadly dance. They were not just warships. They were the product of a species that ate. The first sign that everything had changed came 18 hours after the battle. The Zephyrian Guard ships at the edge of the Kepler 442 system simply disappeared. Fleet Commander Zarthul stared at his control screens in confusion. His ship was now a prisoner, held by the human fleet, but he could still receive reports from other Zephyrian forces. Communications, he called to his officer. Why have we lost contact with the outer patrol ships? Unknown, sir. Their signals went dark at the same time. No distress calls, no combat reports. Zarthul felt fear creep up his spine. In 30 years of military service, he had never seen an enemy that could eliminate an entire patrol group without even a warning shot. Send out more scout ships, he ordered. I want to know what is happening out there. The scout ships launched and immediately began sending back information. What they found sent shockwaves through what remained. Of the Zephyrian fleet, the human ships were unlike anything in the galactic databases. Most species built their warships to look scary and powerful. These human ships were thin, angular, and seemed to absorb light instead of reflecting it. They moved with perfect coordination, like they were controlled by one mind. Sir, his tactical officer reported, his voice tight with fear. I am reading 47 human vessels approaching from multiple directions. They are surrounding our remaining forces. Zarthul activated his communication system. Attention human ships. You are interfering with a lawful hegemony operation. Leave immediately or face the consequences. The response did not come from just one ship. It came from all 47 ships at once, their voices creating a perfectly synchronized message that made every Zephyrian shiver. This is Admiral Sarah Williams of the United Earth Defense Force. You have attacked and destroyed a civilian colony containing 47,000 men, women, and children. You will surrender immediately for transport to a war crimes tribunal, or you will be destroyed. Zarthul tried to sound brave, but his voice cracked. You cannot be serious. We still outnumber you. Fleet Commander Zarthul, the voice continued, and he realized with growing horror that they somehow knew everything about him. You have 30 seconds to surrender your vessels. You have attacked civilians. You have murdered children. There will be no further warnings. The countdown began. 30, 29, 28. All remaining ships, attack. Zarthul screamed. Show these humans what real warriors look like. The surviving Zephyrian fleet opened fire with everything they had. Energy weapons, missiles, and plasma bolts filled the space around the human ships. It was enough firepower to destroy a small moon. For a moment, nothing happened. The human ships seemed to absorb the attack without even returning fire. Then they moved. What happened next was not like any space battle the galaxy had ever seen. The human ships did not line up and trade shots like normal fleets. Instead, they flowed through the Zephyrian formation like water, their weapons targeting specific systems with surgical precision. Within minutes, half the remaining Zephyrian fleet was drifting powerless, their engines and weapons systematically disabled. The other half found themselves facing an enemy that seemed to know their every move before they made it. How are they doing this? Zarthul demanded from his disabled command ship. His tactical officer's voice was barely a whisper. Sir, they are not fighting like any military we have studied. They are fighting like they have mastered war itself. The human ships continued their deadly dance. These were not just warships. They were the result of a species that had spent centuries learning how to kill efficiently, how to wage war, not with emotion or honor, but with cold, calculated precision. Sir, his communications officer called out, I am receiving transmissions from human colonies throughout this sector. They are all responding to something called Protocol 7. Zarthul's blood turned to ice. How many colonies? 17 systems, sir. Civilian settlements, mining operations, research stations. They are all mobilizing for war. On the main view screen, Admiral Williams appeared. She was a woman in her 50s, with gray hair pulled back severely. Her eyes held the kind of cold fury that came from a lifetime of military service. Fleet Commander Zarthul, she said, her voice carrying absolute authority. You made a mistake. You thought we were weak because we chose peace. You thought we were afraid because we avoided conflict. The last of the Zephyrian ships went dark, their crews alive but powerless. We are not afraid of war, Commander. We are afraid of what we become when we fight it. You just reminded us why we stopped fighting each other. The transmission ended, leaving Zarthul staring at his tactical display. His entire fleet had been neutralized in less than 20 minutes. Not destroyed, but systematically disabled by an enemy that fought like nothing he had ever encountered. But the real shock came when reports started arriving from across the galaxy. The peaceful, diplomatic humans had vanished, replaced by something no one had expected. In the Galactic Council chambers, emergency sessions were being called as alarming reports flooded in. Counselor Vexthari slithered nervously around his platform as he read message after message. The humans have mobilized 17 separate fleets, he announced to the gathered council. They are moving toward all known Zephyrian positions throughout the galaxy. General Thokmar, the four-armed warrior who had mocked human military capabilities, stood up. This is impossible. Our intelligence showed they had no significant military forces. Our intelligence was wrong, said Counselor Yelandros, her bioluminescent form flickering with agitation. The humans have been hiding their true capabilities for centuries. The reports continued to pour in. Human ships were appearing throughout the galaxy, emerging from hidden bases and secret facilities. These were not the simple exploration vessels the Council had seen before. These were warships designed for one purpose: to end conflicts quickly and decisively. They are not fighting like any species we have encountered, reported a Corthany observer who had witnessed the battle at Kepler 442. They use tactics we have never seen, weapons we did not know existed, and coordination that seems impossible. Ambassador Lisa Martinez stood before the council, but she was different now. Where before she had been accommodating and diplomatic, now she radiated authority that made even the most aggressive species pay attention. Counselors, she began, her voice carrying clearly through the chamber. The human colony at New Eden contained 1,500 children. They were refugees from the industrial worlds, sent there because it was supposed to be safe. The chamber fell silent. Those children are dead now, killed by a species that believed humans were too weak to respond. You have all spent months discussing our apparent pacifism, our reluctance to engage in conflict. She paused, letting her words sink in. You were wrong. We do not avoid war because we are afraid of it. We avoid it because we are very, very good at it. The implications began to dawn on the assembled species. The humans had not been weak. They had been restrained. They had not lacked military capability. They had been hiding it. For 2 centuries, Lisa continued, humanity has presented itself as a peaceful species. We have sought diplomatic solutions, avoided conflicts, and worked to build bridges between species. This was not because we could not fight. It was because we knew what fighting would cost. She activated a holographic display showing human military doctrine. The assembled aliens saw training programs, weapon systems, and tactical manuals that were centuries ahead of anything they possessed. We learned to wage war by fighting each other for thousands of years. We studied every battle, analyzed every strategy, and perfected every tactic. We became so efficient at killing that we scared ourselves. The display shifted to show the aftermath of human conflicts on Earth. Cities reduced to rubble. Populations devastated. Technologies that could eliminate entire civilizations. We chose peace not because we were weak, but because we were strong enough to know what war really meant. We built our diplomatic approach because we understood that the alternative was unthinkable. General Thokmar's voice was barely audible. The tactics we observed, the coordination, the precision ... double quotes, are the result of centuries of study, Lisa confirmed. We have analyzed every conflict in galactic history. We have learned from every species' military doctrine. We have prepared for every possible scenario. She looked directly at the assembled council. The Zephyrians attacked our children because they thought we were afraid of war. They were wrong. We are afraid of what we become when we wage it. The chamber erupted in confused voices as species tried to understand what they were hearing. The humans had not just hidden their military capabilities. They had created an entirely new form of warfare. "What do you want from us?" asked Counselor Vexthari, his earlier arrogance replaced by something approaching fear. "The same thing we have always wanted," Lisa replied. "Peace. But now you understand that our offer of peace comes not from weakness, but from strength. Not from fear of war, but from knowledge of what war truly costs." She gestured to the holographic display, which now showed human fleets moving throughout the galaxy. The Zephyrian hegemony will be dismantled. Their military will be eliminated. Their leaders will face justice for their crimes. And after that, we will help them rebuild. We will show them a better way. Just as the second wave of human response began 72 hours after the first battle. What the galaxy witnessed next would change their understanding of warfare forever. Captain Jake Morrison commanded the UES Retribution, one of 12 ships assigned to what military historians would later call the Zephyrian Education Campaign. His ship was part of a new class of human warships that had been built in secret. These vessels were designed not for exploration or simple defense, but for the complete destruction of enemy military power. "Captain," reported Lieutenant Amy Foster from the tactical station, "we are approaching the Zephyrian secondary fleet at Theta Draconis. Sensors show 46 vessels, including 3 dreadnoughts." Morrison nodded, his face grim. "Signal the fleet. Begin pattern Delta 7. What followed was a masterclass in military theory put into practice. The human vessels did not simply attack the Zephyrian fleet. They took it apart piece by piece, using electronic warfare, precision strikes, and tactics that seemed to come from a deeper understanding of conflict than the galaxy had ever seen. They systematically eliminated the enemy's ability to fight back. The key was in the details. Human military doctrine had been developed over centuries of warfare on Earth. It had been refined through conflicts that had claimed hundreds of millions of lives. Humans understood that war was not about heroic charges or shows of individual bravery. It was about logistics, communication, and the methodical destruction of the enemy's capacity to resist. The Zephyrian dreadnoughts were massive ships that had intimidated dozens of species into surrender. But they found their shields failing to attacks that seemed to come from nowhere. Their communication systems were jammed. Their sensor arrays were blinded. Their weapon systems were turned against their own ships through computer viruses that no one had thought possible. "This is impossible," Admiral Kexfer transmitted from the Zephyrian flagship. "No species fights like this. There are rules, protocols, codes of honor." Captain Morrison's response was broadcast on all frequencies. "Admiral, you murdered children. There are no rules anymore." Meanwhile, across the galaxy, other human fleets were showing the full scope of humanity's military capabilities. The Zephyrians had expected a normal war. They had prepared for ship-to-ship combat, territorial disputes, and the kind of conflict that had defined galactic politics for thousands of years. Instead, they found themselves facing an enemy that operated on principles they did not understand. Human Special Forces units, led by veterans like Colonel Danny Parker, entered Zephyrian installations not to destroy them, but to capture important intelligence and turn the enemy's own systems against them. "The key," Colonel Parker explained to his team as they prepared to enter the Zephyrian command base on Rigel 7, "is that they do not understand asymmetric warfare. They think in terms of fleets and armies. We think in terms of networks and systems." The infiltration mission was a success that shocked the watching galaxy. A team of 12 humans managed to penetrate the most heavily defended installation in Zephyrian space, capture the commanding officers, and extract detailed intelligence about their military capabilities, all without firing a single shot. But it was in space that humanity's true capabilities became clear. Admiral Williams, now commanding a task force of over 200 vessels, demonstrated what human military theorists called total spectrum dominance. The Zephyrians had been preparing for a traditional naval battle. They had assembled their remaining fleets in a massive formation, confident that their superior numbers would overcome human technological advantages. They were wrong. The human attack began not with ships, but with information. Zephyrian command and control systems found themselves infected with viruses that fed false information to their commanders. Ships received contradictory orders. Weapon systems malfunctioned. Entire squadrons found themselves firing on their own allies. When the human fleet finally engaged, it was less a battle and a systematic dismantling. Human vessels, operating with perfect coordination, struck at precise points that maximized damage while minimizing their own exposure. They used weapons that the galaxy had never seen before. These weapons were terrifying in their efficiency. Projectiles that could track targets across light years. Energy weapons that could punch through any known shielding. And most frightening of all, weapons that seemed to learn and adapt as they fought. Status report, Admiral Williams requested as the engagement entered its final phase. "Enemy fleet is at 12% combat effectiveness," reported Commander Lisa Zhang from the tactical station. "Remaining vessels are attempting to withdraw, but our pursuit squadrons are maintaining contact." Williams studied the tactical display. The Zephyrian fleet, once numbering over 400 vessels, had been reduced to scattered, fleeing remnants in less than 6 hours. "Signal all commands," she ordered. "Begin Phase 3. Phase 3 was something the galaxy had never seen before. Instead of pursuing the fleeing Zephyrians, the human fleet began what they called reconstruction operations. They systematically repaired critical infrastructure, established humanitarian aid stations, and began the process of rebuilding the very systems they had just destroyed. The message was clear. Humanity did not just know how to win wars. They knew how to end them. In the Galactic Council chambers, the emergency session had been ongoing for 4 days. Species after species reported the same thing. The humans were demonstrating military capabilities that made traditional galactic warfare obsolete. "They are not just fighting," reported General Thokmar, his 4 arms gesturing wildly. "They are rewriting the rules of combat itself. Our entire understanding of military doctrine has become useless." Counselor Vexthari, who had been so dismissive, of human capabilities just days before, now spoke with barely hidden fear. The Zephyrians were our most militaristic species. They had conquered 17 systems and subjugated dozens of civilizations. The humans defeated them in less than a week. Not defeated, corrected Counselor Elandros. Dismantled. There is a difference. The truth was beginning to dawn on. The assembled species. They had spent centuries developing military doctrines based on the assumption that war was about conquest, about the strong dominating the weak. Humanity had developed something different, a way of warfare that was about ending conflict itself. Back in human space, the demonstration continued. On the planet Kepler Prime, a major Zephyrian military installation had been captured intact. The human forces, led by Major Alex Turner, were showing the galaxy something unprecedented. "We are not here to destroy," Major Turner announced to the captured Zephyrian officers. "We are here to teach. You will learn new ways of thinking about conflict, about governance, about the relationship between military power and civilian authority." The Zephyrian officers stared at him in confusion. In their experience, conquerors came to take, not to teach. "You attacked our children," Turner continued. "In our culture, this is the worst crime imaginable. But we will not respond with the same brutality you showed. We will show you a better way." The human approach was revolutionary. Instead of simply defeating the enemy, they were systematically dismantling the military culture that had created. The enemy in the first place. Captain Morrison, now overseeing operations in the Rigel system, received reports from human forces throughout Zephyrian space. The pattern was the same everywhere. Swift, decisive military action followed immediately by reconstruction and education. "Captain," his communications officer reported, "we are receiving messages from neutral species throughout the galaxy. They are requesting observers to study our operations." Morrison nodded. "Grant the requests. Let them see what we are doing. Let them understand that there is a different way to handle conflict." The observers who arrived were stunned by what they witnessed. Human forces were not acting like conquerors. They were acting like teachers, doctors, and engineers. They were not just winning the war. They were building the peace. Dr. Sarah Kim, a human civilian specialist, explained the approach to a group of alien observers. "We learned from our own history that military victory means nothing if you do not address the underlying causes of conflict. You must change the culture, the institutions, the way people think about power." The observers watched as human forces worked alongside former Zephyrian soldiers to rebuild damaged infrastructure. They saw human medical teams treating wounded Zephyrians with the same care they gave to their own people. They witnessed human engineers designing new cities that would be more defensible but also more livable. "This is not how war is supposed to work," observed a Vindari military attach. "No," agreed Dr. Kim. "This is how war is supposed to end." The final demonstration came when Admiral Williams announced that the Zephyrian capital world would be liberated. Every species in the galaxy watched as the human fleet approached the most heavily defended planet in Zephyrian space. The defenses were formidable. Orbital platforms, ground-based missiles, and a fleet of over 100 ships. The Zephyrians had prepared for a siege that could last months. It lasted 4 hours. The human attack was a symphony of coordinated destruction. They did not bombard the planet from orbit. They did not launch massive ground invasions. Instead, they used precision, strikes to disable key systems while leaving civilian infrastructure. 6 months after the Zephyrian War, as galactic historians would later name it, Ambassador Lisa Martinez stood once again before the Galactic Council. But everything had changed. The chamber itself was different. Where once species had threatened and boasted, now there was a careful politeness, a recognition that the old assumptions about power and strength had been completely wrong. The humans had shown the galaxy that true strength came not from the ability to start wars, but from the ability to end them quickly and build something better. The Zephyrian hegemony, Lisa announced, has agreed to the terms of surrender. All conquered territories will be returned to their original inhabitants. War crimes tribunals will be established for those responsible for the attack on New Eden. And most importantly, the hegemony will transition to a democratic government under council's supervision. The assembled delegates listened in silence. The speed and completeness of the Zephyrian defeat had sent shock waves through the galaxy. Species that had spent centuries building their military might now found themselves questioning everything they thought they knew about warfare. Counselor Vex Thari, his earlier arrogance replaced by something approaching humility, spoke first. Ambassador Martinez, the Council wishes to apologize for our earlier assessment of human capabilities. We clearly misunderstood your species' approach to conflict. Lisa nodded graciously. We appreciate that, Counselor. But I think it is important that everyone understands what really happened here. She activated a holographic display that showed the timeline of the conflict. The Zephyrians attacked New Eden because they believed we were weak. They killed 47,000 civilians, including 1,500 children, because they thought we would not respond. The display shifted to show the human military response. What they discovered is that humans do not avoid war because we are afraid of it. We avoid it because we understand it. We have spent centuries learning how to wage war efficiently. How? To minimize casualties. How to target military capabilities while protecting civilian populations. General Thokmar, the Vendari war chief, leaned forward. But your tactics, your weapons, your coordination, these are not the products of a peaceful species. No, Lisa agreed. They are the products of a species that has learned from its mistakes. Humans fought each other for thousands of years. We refined the art of warfare until we became very, very good at it. So good, in fact, that we scared ourselves. She paused, letting the implications sink in. The weapons we used against the Zephyrians are centuries old by our standards. The tactics we employed were developed fighting each other. The coordination you witnessed was learned through conflicts that claimed hundreds of millions of lives. The chamber was completely silent now. Every species was beginning to understand the true nature of the beings they had so casually dismissed. We stopped fighting each other, Lisa continued, not because we could not win, but because we realized that winning was not the point. We developed our diplomatic approach, our preference for negotiation, our search for peaceful solutions, because we learned that war, even when won decisively, destroys everything it touches. Admiral Williams, who had been invited to address the council, stepped forward. The Zephyrians made a fundamental error. They assumed that because we chose peace, we had forgotten how to wage war. They were wrong. The Admiral activated another display, showing the current state of human military preparedness. Every human child learns about the wars of the past. Every human officer studies the campaigns of our greatest generals. We remember because we never want to repeat those mistakes. She looked directly at the assembled delegates. What you witnessed was not humanity at war. It was humanity preventing war. We ended the Zephyrian threat quickly and decisively because allowing it to continue would have led to far greater casualties. President Johnson, participating via hologram from Earth, added his voice to the discussion. The galactic community is welcome to inspect our military installations, to study our weapons, to understand our capabilities. We have nothing to hide. But we want everyone to understand that our strength comes not from our ability to destroy, but from our knowledge of when destruction is necessary. In the weeks that followed, delegations from across the galaxy visited Earth and human colonies. What they found challenged every assumption they had made about warfare and civilization. Human military academies did not just teach tactics and strategy. They taught history, ethics, and the true cost of conflict. Human weapons were designed not just to destroy, but to minimize collateral damage. Human military doctrine emphasized protecting civilians, preserving infrastructure, and creating conditions for lasting peace. Captain Jake Morrison, now serving as a military advisor, explained it to a group of visiting Courtney officers. We learned that winning a war is easy. The hard part is winning the peace. Every human military officer studies not just how to defeat an enemy, but how to help them rebuild afterward. The visiting officers were amazed. In their experience, war was about conquest, about the strong dominating the weak. The idea that the victors would help the defeated rebuild was completely foreign to them. But why? Asked Commander Klektar. Why help those who opposed you? Morrison smiled. Because we learned that a defeated enemy who has nothing left to lose is the most dangerous enemy of all. The goal is not to destroy them. It is to give them something better to fight for. The transformation of galactic politics was swift and profound. Species that had relied on military intimidation found themselves adapting to a new reality where actual military capability mattered less than the wisdom to use it properly. The Zephyrian hegemony, under Council supervision, began its transition to democracy. Human advisors, led by Colonel Danny Parker, worked with former enemy officers to establish new governmental structures based on consent rather than conquest. The hardest part, Parker explained to his team, is not defeating the military. It is changing the mindset that created the military in the first place. 1 year after the conflict, Ambassador Lisa Martinez delivered what would become known as the New Eden Address to the Galactic Council. The speech would fundamentally reshape interspecies relations for generations to come. Today marks the anniversary of the attack on New Eden, she began. 47,000 civilians died because one species believed that humans were too weak to respond. They were wrong, but not in the way they expected. She looked out at the assembled delegates, representing hundreds of species and thousands of worlds. We were not weak, we were restrained. We did not lack military capability. We had learned to control it. We were not afraid of war. We were afraid of what we became when we waged it. The speech continued for an hour, outlining humanity's vision for galactic peace. It was not the peace of the weak, cowering before stronger powers. It was the peace of the strong, confident enough in their abilities to choose when and how to use them. We offer the galaxy a choice, Lisa concluded. Continue the old ways of conquest and domination, where strength is measured by the ability to destroy, or join us in building something better. A civilization where strength is measured by the ability to protect, to build, to create lasting peace. The response was overwhelming. Species after species formally requested to join what became known as the Terran Compact. This was a mutual defense agreement that emphasized protection of civilians, peaceful resolution of conflicts, and collective security. The Zephyrian War had lasted less than a week, but its aftermath would reshape the galaxy for thousands of years. Humanity had shown the galaxy that true strength came not from the ability to wage war, but from the wisdom to know when war was necessary and how to end it quickly and decisively. As Ambassador Martinez often said in later years, we did not win because we were the strongest. We won because we understood what strength was really for. The galaxy had learned its lesson. Humans were not afraid of war. They were afraid of what they became when they waged it. And that fear, paradoxically, made them the most formidable military force the galaxy had ever seen. But more importantly, it made them the most effective peacekeepers. The old cycle of conquest and revenge was broken. In its place was a new model based on protection, reconstruction, and the patient work of building lasting peace. 10 years later, the New Eden Memorial stood at the center of the rebuilt colony. The names of all 47,000 victims were carved in black stone, a reminder of the price of underestimating humanity's commitment to peace. Ambassador Lisa Martinez, now retired, stood before the memorial with her granddaughter, a young girl named Hope, who had never known a galaxy where humans were considered weak. "Grandma," Hope asked, "why did they think we were afraid of war?" Lisa smiled, her weathered hand resting on the child's shoulder. "Because we chose to be afraid of it, sweetheart. And sometimes the things we fear most are the things we are." BesT. The memorial bore a simple inscription. "They thought we were weak because we chose peace. They learned we chose peace because we were strong." The galaxy had indeed learned its lesson. And humanity had learned something too. Their greatest strength lay not in their ability to wage war, but in their wisdom to know when war was necessary, and their commitment to building something better in its wake. The stars shone down on New Eden. Peace